Everywhere you go, all you hear about is inflation, recession, Bitcoin crashing. Whether it be from FTX or any other cause out there, everything is about doom and gloom. And some of that is definitely justified. Much of that is definitely justified. But what can you do to offset all of that information, all of those headlines that never makes you do anything but sit on your hands and say, I'm not either going to be in this or I need to get out of this. So I want to go through something you can do. All right. And I also want to share a little portion of the mastermind that I did today with fellow members at the investment club at London Real. All right. So first thing here is you need to have a positive mindset with a future outlook. We get so wrapped up in the headlines, getting in the ins and outs, and even some of the content on my channel was following FTX and whatnot. Just fine. But where do you spend most of your attention? Are you putting your attention on your portfolio every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes? You're looking at the price of Bitcoin every day. When you're seeing it drop as it is, for whatever the reason may be, it can't help but have a negative effect on you mentally, emotionally, all of that. Same thing as when all you're listening to is CNBC, Fox News, all these guys talking about inflation and recession fears. Doesn't mean it's not true. It just means, and like, what are you going to do about it? You can't fix it. You don't have the power to do that. So how do you figure out a strategy or a plan where you're actually going to come out on top in the future? It's all about the future talk, that we have to think about here. So one thing is you've got to invest in yourself, irrespective of what coin you like, exchanges you don't like, whether it be centralized or decentralized or whatever the case is, NFTs, anything. The problem here is that if you don't invest in yourself, in your network, in building your credibility and your voice in this space, you're just involved in things that everybody else can be involved in. You and I and anyone else out there can, for the most part, decide to invest in Bitcoin, ETH, doesn't matter what coin. But can we build ourselves to a point where we get afforded opportunities that don't rely on it's a bull market or it's a bear market? And that's what we need to really drive ourselves towards, is being in those opportunities, being in those rooms where those opportunities present themselves. And how does that happen? It's by reaching out to people in the space, especially this time in a bear market. But what I really want to do is I want to jump into my little mastermind here, okay? I don't want to jump into it. I'm not going to share all of it. I'm going to leave that for the mastermind itself. But I want to share, well, you've made that decision now. You don't care about all the headlines about recession, inflation, Bitcoin crash. You want to be involved in the space. So what do you do, right? And here's the thing though. What do you do when you try and reach out to people and they don't respond to you or they say no? But you reach out to someone and say, hey, let's chat, let's do this, let's do that. Or let's say I want to invest in your company or your project and they don't respond to you or they say no. All right. All right. So first things first. And I'll tell you this right now. I've gone through each of these stages, and it doesn't mean that with every rejection or radio silence, you only feel one of these and you move on to the next. You actually feel all three of them, or at least I did anyway. So if someone says no to you, or if someone doesn't actually respond at all, you get a little bit of anger. Like, what is it? Who are you? What is it about you that allows you to kind of miss out on what I have to offer? So there's that ego, that anger that comes with that, right? There's also confusion. Was it my message? Was it where I messaged? Are you busy? Like, I don't know what the deal is here. What's going on? And I'm talking mainly about initial contact with someone. And the last one here is you let it go. You accept defeat. And you say, okay, it's not meant to be. Don't take anything personal. That's a big lesson for me, actually. So you don't take anything personal. You calm down. You don't write any responses. You don't do any follow-ups for someone who hasn't messaged you to say, hey, you haven't messaged me. It's been 48 hours. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Okay? You're just making it more clear that they were right in their decision not to talk to you at all. So calm down. Remove all emotions. get to that place, however long that does take you, and understand that it's not necessarily about did they like you, did they dislike you. There's so many variables involved with reaching out to someone and making a connection. Was it in an inbox that became full? Did they see it and forget about it? They didn't really have a chance to actually see your message or read it properly. They just kind of glanced and then they got busy. So don't take it personal. Calm down, remove emotions, and then start to actually really think about your message and your messaging. So next one here is going to be, you have to evaluate. Okay? You've got to evaluate and see, did I present my value add to that person clearly? Was it clear and concise? So what does that mean? Well, a lot of times what we do, and what I used to do when I started out, was a lot of it was about me. Here's my story. This is how I came into the crypto space, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And then you go all the way through, and then at the bottom of your message will be, hey, this is how I think it can be helpful to you. Yeah, they didn't get that far. They're bored. They don't care. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't really care what you have to say. And so why do they want to listen to your story? And they're like, this guy hasn't even told me what my value what I get out of this. Okay, so you got to lead with reward. That's the first thing. But it also has to be clear and it has to be to the point. On the flip side, it also can't be too short where it's more like, hey, how's it going? I think there's synergies. Let's connect. They don't know you. They hear that a bunch of times. Someone just kind of closing their eyes and shooting a dart in the dark. They have no idea. So they're going to take it that way, that you're just kind of fishing. You probably wrote this to 100 people. So you got to make your value add, your lead with reward, clear, concise, and upfront, as opposed to about you. All right. Now I've also added that you got to make sure that it fits the project. This sometimes can get a little tricky because this is your first time trying to connect with them. You don't know necessarily what they need in terms of the nitty gritty, right down into the weeds, the nuances and all that. But for example, if they are a CEO or a founder of a project, you would like to be some type of investor. Well, I mean, you broad strokes, right? They could use some attention. They could use some introductions, and obviously they could use some capital. So make sure somehow, some way you formulate that into your messaging as your intro. Also, what you can do is you can research the particular project. Maybe they have a website. Maybe they have a working app or DApp. Maybe they have something that you can actually sink your teeth in and see, what is it about them that you like and where do you think you can help them? And be specific about it. But everything is really about evaluating, what did you say? Why did they not respond to me, or why did they say no? And got to tweak that messaging. So second here I said is, what's the medium of your message? Is it on social media? In particular, is it LinkedIn versus is it Instagram versus is it Twitter? Each of those platforms, well, all social media, they all act differently. And people on there do things differently and see things in a different way. So the way you message someone on LinkedIn is not going to be the way you message someone on Twitter. Was your message crafted for the platform that you actually message through? All right, so that is one of them. Second thing is, maybe your direct message got buried. Especially if they're an influencer of note, they probably have a bunch of people every day who get into their DMs doing something. And so yours just got buried to the bottom. That is possible. What I say about your profile here is, irrespective of who you reach out to, they look at you first. They look at your profile wherever they can find it. If it's through email, they're going to find social media avenues to find you. And if it's on social media, they're going to use the profile you have on that platform to actually assess if you are someone worth talking to. So your profile, and it's definitely something that I see missed all the time. There's no description in there. There's no about section in terms of how you could help a project overall, or a project like that you're the one you're speaking to or want to speak to. None of that is in there. So if the first thing they do is they look at your social media profile to assess if you're a fit for them, at least to get on a phone call with, and you have nothing there, or it's nothing relevant to them, it doesn't matter how good your message is. They've just confirmed your value add to them without a single word. They didn't need to exchange a word. So if you are, it's a blockchain project, raising money, it's early in their stage, and your profile is all about how you were in construction or you were in healthcare. Like nothing has to do with anything. So why would they actually respond to you? Okay? They may even think that it's not even a real profile. So really dive into your profile, really clean it up. But I will also say this is don't overthink it. I would rather you quickly go through it, put a description, put whatever you like in your about section, try and make it relevant to any type of project that you speak to or want to speak to, or a founder, right? The CEOs or CFOs, whoever you are trying to touch base with. Make sure there's something in your about section where they can be like, okay, I see where some synergies could be, and let me take a second glance at this message and maybe we can connect from there. All right. So these are all things, and I'm not going to go through the plan. We'll save that, the actionable items, for the mastermind. But these two things right here, you can formulate a lot of actions around just these two things. Tweak the messaging, do some research on the projects to see where the value is that you can add, and then really look at your messaging, but also look at your profile on the platform that you're messaging them with. Okay. The takeaway home point for today is you've got to direct your energies in a constructive way. You cannot read, listen, watch doom and gloom headlines all the time. Especially if you want to be in this space for a long period of time. It's going to sap your energy. It's going to make you skeptical. It's going to make you negative. And you're going to get out of this space. We're here trying to get financial freedom, economic liberty. And so we need to be in this space long term to realize this. These scars, these bruises, these wounds, it's all the price to pay for financial freedom. So take a look at what you're doing and where you're spending your time and your attention, and redirect that towards long-term prosperity, where people see you in this space, recognize you for a long-term player, and want to do business with you.